And right now we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick here with Katie Greifeld, taking you through to that closing bell with a global simulcast. Massar and Tim Stenovec pop up on the screen. Welcome to our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms. That's television, that's radio, that's our partnership with YouTube, parsing the most crucial moments of the day. Massar, we had a little bit of a rebound rally here on the day, some of the gains being given back, but green across the screen for all of the major U.S. indices.
Yeah, bouncing around in a big way. We did get those Fed minutes earlier where we did see several officials, a little bit more concerned maybe about inflationary pressures.
Are you concerned about inflationary pressures?
Yeah, I live with inflationary pressures every day.
I was told.
Don't you feel it still?
The disinflation is happening.
Yeah. Who told you that?
You feel that?
Prices are not going down. Have you bought paper towels lately?
The prices don't go down. Remember, the rate of acceleration changes.
I know.
Carol's told me many times.
Reusable towels.
I know. I am. Actually, my husband, we got lots of reusables now.
No, thank you.
Hey, I'm interested in the way that AI is affecting the companies that are reporting after the bell, especially a company like Booking Holdings, Avis Budget. We got people in the newsroom telling us they're using AI to book hotels, to book rooms, to come up with incredible European vacations within 15 minutes.
Go to Milan to see the Olympics.
I was trying to book something last night.
Did it work?
No.
What did you use?
Well, it wasn't AI. I was just doing it the old-fashioned way.
With the chatbot.
That's why it didn't work.
Yeah, I don't
You
know.
need a young to show you, Romaine.
A young.
On the agentic thing.
One of those
I need a
youngins.
young for a lot of things. Anyway. All right, we are getting a lot of earnings after the bell. Molson Coors, Booking, Avis Budget, Occidental Petroleum, DoorDash, Cheesecake Factory, eBay, Carvana, Edison, and Omnicom, just to name a few, as you get the closing bells here on this Wednesday afternoon, finishing off the highs of the day, but green across the screen. The S&P 500 up about 0.6%. The Dow up about 0.3%, a quarter of a percent, we'll say. The NASDAQ Composite up about 0.8%, and the Russell 2000 finishing out the day higher by about 0.5 percentage point.
All right, interesting. That's the small caps. Let's go back to the S&P 500, guys. Hey, most names actually by the close higher in today's session. 317, Katie.
Which one's your favorite?
To the upside. I don't have favorites. I love them all. 185 to the downside, one unchanged.
We're getting results right now out of Booking Holdings. Speaking of travel here, the numbers as they hit the wire, and this takes a while to pull up, looks like pretty much in line with estimates. EPS at 48.80, pretty much in line with the average of street estimates. $2.2 billion, just a nudge higher than what the street was looking for. Excuse me, that's the EBITDA number. Revenue is $6.35 billion, just a nudge higher than the average of street estimates of $6.13 billion, and gross bookings $43 billion. The street was looking for $41.99 billion. So just slightly above the average of street estimates. Not a whole lot of pop in the shares there, but we're going to dive deeper into it, Katie.
No, you can see the shares higher by about 0.9% after market. Not too much movement, especially when you consider the magnitude to which shares have fallen so far this year, Tim. I mean, when it comes to the total return basis, down by about 20% or so, but you can see now starting to move a little bit more as traders digest some of these figures.
Glenn Vogel trying to get ahead of the narrative that generative AI is a threat and instead an opportunity. In the press release, he says, and this is the CEO of Booking Holdings, quote, "We remain focused on our key priorities, especially advancing our use of generative AI to enhance the value we deliver to both travelers and partners."
There's that word.
Sorry?
Yeah, there's that word again, AI.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, if you're you have to change the narrative, I guess, or you have to talk about how you're embracing it, or talk about how it's an opportunity, not a threat for a company. We see a lot of companies doing this right now when investors are scared of the effect of AI on their company.
Yeah, you talk about it, but is it really, going to be helpful, or is it going to be more of a threat? I mean, right now you've got the stock just up about 0.7% here in the aftermarkets. Again, some of the outlook from bookings sees first quarter room nights up 5 to 7%, sees year gross bookings growth low double digits, and sees first quarter gross bookings up 14 to 16%, Katie.
Yeah, you can see, again, now
Outlook
shares flat. So we're going to have to see, of course, maybe if we get some more clarity when it comes to the call, maybe that'll provide a more clear direction. But when it comes to the day that was, let's take a quick look at the sector level as well, because you can see there was a lot of breadth for relatively small movements for the benchmark overall. Energy was your outperformer on the day by a mile, higher by about 2%. Utilities, your big loser, down about 1.7%.
Well, let's go back to the travel space and take a look at rental car company Avis Budget. Those shares down about 7.5%. The company missing on revenue in the most recent quarter, $2.66 billion. The street was looking for $2.74 billion. A net loss as well, with the company saying that reflects a $518 million asset impairment. The company, though, did say its per unit fleet cost down about 21%. But here's your forecast for the full year. The company says adjusted EBITDA, a range of $800 million to $1 billion. The top end of that range is below the average of street estimates.
All right, let's get a read on the advertising and marketing world. Omnicom out with their latest results. We're seeing the stock move a little bit here in the aftermarket. Fourth quarter revenue, folks, that was a beat, $5.5 billion versus the street estimate of $4.52 billion. Fourth quarter adjusted EPS a little bit light by 2 pennies, $2.59 a share versus an estimate of $2.61. And you can see shares of Omnicom, they are down about 1.25% here in the aftermarket. All right, let's go to some specific stocks on the move. In fact, this one, we were breaking down the earnings after the close yesterday, and this was a top gainer in both the S&P and the NASDAQ 100. We're talking about Cadence Design Systems, finishing the day up about 7.6%. The company reported fourth quarter results that beat expectations. They gave an outlook that is seen as positive. Wall Street's been weighing in throughout the day. Morgan Stanley, that is, and Piper Sandler lowering their price targets on the stock. Rosenblatt upgrading the stock to a buy and raising its price target to $360 from $335. Stock closing at about $305 a share. Let's move on over to Wingstop, because that one.
I love this. Yeah.
So that's my gift to you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Wingstop up about 10%. It was up as much as 20% intraday. This is, of course, the restaurant chain specializing in chicken wings. Reported adjusted earnings per share and total domestic comp sales growth for the fourth quarter that beat consensus estimates. The results kind of a welcome surprise, if you will, after analysts had warned that the chain's heavy exposure to lower income, Hispanic and younger consumers groups that have pulled back the most on dining out could weigh on results. But this one, definitely an outperformer. And guys, we have some more earnings.
We do. Two notes. So Wingstop just opened in Hoboken, so that's huge. Also, we're getting DoorDash earnings right now. They see first quarter marketplace be gov between $31 billion to $31.8 billion. That is a red headline on the Bloomberg terminal. The estimate had been for $30.75 billion. When it comes to their fourth quarter EPS, it looks like that did miss estimates pretty materially. 48 cents, that was the figure for EPS for the fourth quarter. The estimate had been 4.55 cents. When it comes to revenue, also a slight miss there. When it comes to the first quarter outlook for adjusted EBITDA, $675 million to $775 million. That is a big range, and it's actually below the estimate of about $800.1 million. You can see the shares reacting right now, currently lower by about 5%.
Okay, I'm looking at shares at eBay. They're higher by about 3.4%. The company out with its latest results, but also some news. It will buy Depop from Etsy for about $1.2 billion in cash. In addition to that, fourth quarter net revenue coming in at $2.97 billion. That's above estimates of $2.87 billion. Fourth quarter gross merchandise volume coming in above estimates. Fourth quarter active buyers coming in above estimates. Fourth quarter adjusted EPS coming in just above estimates. The company did raise its dividend, and it matched Bloomberg projections. Once again, fourth quarter EPS from continuing operations beating estimates. Shares higher in the after hours ever so slightly. The company sees first quarter net revenue $3 billion to $3.05 billion. That did beat estimates of $2.79 billion. And once again, the company's going to buy Depop from Etsy for about $1.2 billion in cash.
At some point, we got to go back and talk about what the heck's going on with Etsy. But I do want to talk about Molson Coors, the beer maker out with its earnings right now. 4Q net sales $2.66 billion, relatively in line with estimates, maybe a smidge light from the $2.7 billion average of analyst estimates. But underlying EPS did beat at $1.21 a share. The street was looking for $1.15. Overall, though, we should point out net sales were actually down by about 3% year over year, in line with expectations. expectations. But of course, this is a company that's been struggling a little bit here with a decline in alcohol consumption, particularly in certain sectors of the beer market.
All right, guys, let's go to Carvana, which was on fire last year, but we've seen a bit of a different trade this year. And I see the stock down about 15% in the aftermarket. Wow. Yeah, exactly. Fourth quarter adjusted EBITDA, $511 million. That's a miss. Street was looking for 535.7. And fourth quarter revenue, $5.6 billion. That is above Street estimates. And fourth quarter adjusted EBITDA margin, 9.1%. That's a miss. The Street was looking for 10.4%. We'll look for some outlook on this one, but investors not pleased. Right?
A lot of short interest on this stock, too. Yeah.
Right. So we're definitely going to see some movement there.